You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Curelop and Zeona McIntyre.
Hello everyone, you are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curelop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with Zeona McIntyre, aka Z Money. How you doing, Z?
I'm doing great. How are you? And more importantly, where are you? Because your background looks a little bit different than normal, Craig. I always know when you're on the run.
Yeah. There's nothing getting past you, Z. The island of Hawaii right now. My friend rented a big fancy house so it's nice and fun, and it's been a fun. We're here for a week, so we're trying to get the most of it.
Oh my gosh, you asked me for Big Island recommendations, and I just thought I had more time, but apparently I will try.
Nope, we are here and your recommendations, Z. What's been new with you?
Oh man. Well, I just finished furnishing an Airbnb, and now I have another one that I need to purchase in rapid order. So today's guest was quite timely because we have a really interesting guest today who has such a cool investing product that is right up Craig's alley, and I actually might invest in it at some point as well. I don't know that it'll be my next investment, but I really, really love the concept.
And so we have Johnny Wolff. I've been in contact with Johnny Wolff now for probably over a year now, just trying to, help him out. He's helping me out. I don't even know how we got connected, honestly. But he's just has a really cool model of basically making turnkey. So in these markets that, just traditionally just doesn't work, or the cash flow is so bad it's hard to do. Well, he allows you, he basically takes a single family house and rents it by the room, and you can get, he says rent. Well, that could make a deal that wouldn't typically work now work. So I love what he's doing, and I love that he is now basically taking what we've done a little bit scrappily and basically turning it into.
Yeah, no more scrappily.
Scrappily. Is that a word? Add it to Webster's. Yeah.
I love it. Well, let's bring him on.
Hey everyone, big news. Investify has now partnered with Rentredi. And yes, we've partnered with Rentredi because that is the software system that both me and Zeona use to do property management for our rental properties. It makes things super easy. We can send applications, get background checks and credit checks. Tenants, when they come in, can pay rent automatically through there. They can submit maintenance requests, do everything you need to do for property management all in one place. That's why Rentredi is the thing that we've done. I've been using them for years now, and that's why we reached out to them for a relationship on the show. And so again, super excited to have them on board. If you go to rentredi.com and use the code Investify, you'll get 50% off your first 6 months. That's right, 50% off your first 6 months if you go to rentredi.com, sign up and use the coupon code INVEST2FI. And can't wait to see you there. Let us know, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on wherever, and let us know what you think of Rentredi. Because again, I think it's an amazing software. I use it all the time. You can access it from your phone. Amazing stuff. So thanks so much. And let's get back to the episode.
Johnny Wolff, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today?
Doing awesome, man. Craig, good to see you. Good to see you, man. Excited
to see you. Yeah, good to chat with you again, Johnny. I know we've been trying to get you on here for a while. So, why don't we just kick it off? Where did you first hear about?
Yeah, first heard about it on Bigger Pockets back in the day. I was investing specifically in stocks in like 2007, 2010. Ran into kind of seeing and passive income, rich dad, poor dad, 2010-ish. And then moved all my money from like tech stocks into real estate shortly after that. And my money was in Amazon and Google. It kind of was like, I look back, I'm like, dang, it's been a really cool journey kind of since 2010.
Wait, so you had Amazon and Google and Amazon in 2010, and You sold it, or did you? When did you invest
Yeah,
that money?
I sold it to buy real estate. Yeah, I emptied my
Okay.
went on real estate. Yeah.
Okay. So what got you to make that switch from stocks to real estate?
Yeah, it was kind of bigger pocket community and sort of exploring Rich Dad Poor Dad and kind of going down that rabbit hole.
Okay. All right. And so you went from stocks to real estate, and then I guess what was that first property that you bought? Or did you have anything to add?
Well, I was curious about like what was the light bulb moment that made you think that financial independence was something to pursue? Was it just that like, oh, this real estate thing sounds cool, or was there something more to it?
Bought my first property like a year out of college. It was like oil country, or Lights is based out of, and I had no idea what the heck 10% down on the property was like $96,000. So I had bought that property because it seemed without really a lot of planning or thought for 3 years, and I was like, oh wow, I'm making money on pretty easy, and stocks are very erratic, and I think that's why a lot of times when people are trying to decide funds, I think it's real estate's one of those like learn things that has like you have to take some time to learn it a bit more completely than I would say classes. Although crypto, I think you have to learn money card, but I think real estate's is the longest. So I think I had learned enough, and then I started to explore more deeply, and was like, oh wow, there's a lot of people that are hacking houses and making their returns. The process is not super complicated for them.
So when did you buy this place? Was that 2008? Okay, so this was before you sold all your stocks. So basically, you saw that the power of real estate investing for yourself. Then you kind of read Rich Dad Poor Dad. You kind of affirmed through Bigger Pockets and Rich Dad Poor Dad, all in stocks, sell, real estate, buy. And then what happens when you started to get more intentional with it in 2010, 2011?
Yeah, so 2010, 2011, a couple other properties with, I worked in San Francisco, and so I get bonuses. I would buy real estate with that money, cash out of my retirement, and did it moving more quickly. But it was 2015 when I really have a number of properties. They're all like $100,000, and my background's in finance and financial modeling. And I was like, with the small bites, like of value, that even though I'm making some passive income, like until I get to larger price points, my appreciation's not. It's not going to change my life. It's hard to do that with that 100 house. So in 2015, I picked up everything. I moved to Austin, Texas. So that was kind of the evolution. 2008, buy a house, watch it for a couple years, get familiar. 2010, start to dive into the 2015, move to Austin and like get local and rent them by the room.
Okay, so do you feel like Austin was where your for real deal happened? Like where you were really intentional and you bought everything with kind of like a focus and a plan and a strategy? So that's where we should go to do a deep dive? Yes, he's saying yes.
Yeah. Like Austin, Austin. Yeah, Austin was.
Not everybody could see you.
Yeah. Yeah, Austin was definitely the place where real estate investing. I bought in the first 6 months of moving there. And the Austin property is by itself is like 3 or 4x that of Midland market. So like a 7-figure portfolio. And then I started to manage, which seems really easy, especially when you're like in a rich management. It's super easy, and both like, it kind of sucks. But it's also like, it also teaches you about investing that I was blind to when I had a property manager handling my.
Yeah. So we love to just like take it slow because a lot of our listeners are in their first deal or before their first deal. And so it's really great when they can kind of see the breakdown. So can you tell us a bit about that first deal that you bought in Austin, how you found it, what it cost, what you rented it for?
It was a couple. I had a couple investment agent. I didn't do anything aggressive like off-market deal sourcing with like post. I was basically looking at the MLS and through networking, and was a duplex in North Central Austin, pretty close to the stadium there, and it was listed for. And then I found that they had down payment, which means that I didn't have to put any money down at all to buy it, which was
wow.
My life. So I bought it for $285. It appraised for $315 during the purchase, which was surprising. And then we rented it out. I rent out one of the rooms.
Okay, so what was like your mortgage payment on that, and what were you getting for rent when you moved in?
Yeah, so the rent on the side where it was the full duplex rented out at the time $900. I was living in one room and renting out the other room for $500. So I was making about $1,400. The mortgage payment, man, I have to go back and look. Sorry, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I mean, just a super ballpark is fine too.
Yeah, I was doing the cash flow numbers, and generally my thoughts was in play. So I'm going to try to beat break even, and I'll pay for repair, break even mortgage and escrow account.
Okay, so a good kind of thing to say, right? Because when you're in appreciating markets, a lot of people who are listening are probably in markets like Seattle or Denver or Austin or even LA, San Francisco, like those higher price areas. And you don't even need to break even when you're and pay a little bit towards the mortgage, because a lot of your wealth is going to come in that appreciation. And in 5 to 7 years after rents increase and all that, eventually it'll be cash flowing too. And so I think that's just super important to remember when you're buying properties in more expensive areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to, it's a net worth equation, right? And so it's like, how much money did you put, what is your net worth from that property in a year, right? And so in that case, just by 30,000 because the appraised value, but Austin markets, and it's probably not sustainable for the next 50 just because it'll become completely unaffordable, but have been appreciating 5% per year in most, Denver, Seattle, and you can say 5%. And so that, that becomes really powerful. Something that you're house hacking, which is essentially 30 to 1, putting 3.5% down, sometimes less. And so if there's the net worth gains you're going to get from appreciation are real.
So I wanted to highlight that you said you found these on the MLS, because I think a lot of times people think that if they're going to find a deal, they have to do all kinds of creative stuff and they'll never find anything on the MLS. But I think every single thing that I bought myself and my personal portfolio has come from the MLS, and I'm looking to buy right now and I'm looking on the MLS. So even though 2015 was a whole different world, I just like to highlight that for people, that deals can be found anywhere. You just have to keep a strong eye on what you're looking for.
Yeah, agreed. I think there's off-market deal sort of has like this, no one is off-market. It's like under, everyone's like, it sounds a special or something. Generally like this, all of the properties can be really questionable. I generally think, especially if you're new in investing, finding it to be very beneficial just because the purchase process and it's more diligent, and as long as you have a strategy in the purchase or your strategy, right? And so it doesn't have to be to get something that makes sense for your strategy. And so getting something that was at price was good.
Yeah. And just, where was I going to go with that? Let's try to find it though. What were you just saying? Because I just had something I want to say about it.
What was I just saying?
Yeah.
I was saying, there's sort of this 2010 soundbite that kind of echoes to everyone's mind. Like, you have to get 70%, you have to get off market, otherwise it's not a quote unquote good deal.
Got it.
Misnomer. Like, a lot of people can make a lot of money in real estate with different strategies, and at market price, right? Like a house hack person is going to be, their net worth's going to be way higher, even if they buy above, by a little bit in 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think we love the mysterious special deal, but like that, and they can miss out on making money that's right in front of them.
Yeah, especially because money in real estate is made over time. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, because like I'm a real estate agent, so I'm hustling off market deals a lot. And like they're 90% of the time like mega overpriced, because everybody thinks that their house is the most special house and it's worth so much money. And you're just like, whatever. But if it's on the MLS, like the price is dictated by the market, right? Are you getting offers? You're not getting offers. People, figure it out that way. And so sometimes it's a little extra work when you're getting them off market.
Yeah.
Okay, then I wanted to hear a little bit about how you figured out about the down payment assistance program, because there's actually a lot of those programs, even today in Boulder County, which is like the most expensive county in Colorado. We have down payment assistance. And so it's like people need to go out there and look for those options. How did you figure that out?
Because this is 7 years ago. It was really like man, so it was from a lender. That's how I heard about it.
Okay.
I think when you talk to folks that are new, it's going to be, and they're new to investing, and so they're like scrambling, trying to rapidly learn things. And when you're like an agent, when you're helping them, it's like you're moving around a lot, you're doing a lot of things, which I think that's actually really good, like exploring, learning, asking a lot of questions, right? You have to be respectful of people's time, right? Because they have jobs. But by talking to a couple different lenders, I learned about the down payment assistance program. So it was, I mean, like I saved 1,000, which was, not that much, but it was pretty cool. Like your returns are when you're out of pocket is you get money back at closing, which is what I did on that.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. And one thing I'm gathering from what you're saying here too is that like networking, putting yourself out there and talking to the right people in the space will help you add tools to your tool belt and will help you find things that you may not have heard of before. What are the things you need to do to get started? Well, first you need to learn, which is, listening to podcasts like this and reading books and all that. But the second step of that is get to know people in your market. So that way, the tools and the devices and everything that they've used. So then you can maybe go ahead and use one of those same things. And maybe if you don't have enough money for a down payment and that's your obstacle, well, there's down payment assistance. Or maybe you don't have a good enough debt to income ratio. Well, there's a product out there that is okay with a higher debt to income ratio or something like that. So I would say make sure you get out there and get networking.
Yeah, I mean, that's something, that I like that Brandon Turner on BP would say is talk about when he bought his first apartment building. He was just like talking to everyone that he was trying to get into real estate. When you're getting started in something, having that energy, zeal for what you're doing, and it's sort of like what you're doing, right? And so it gets people talking about that, connects some. We just went through Y Combinator about HomeRoom, my company. One of the things they say is like when you're fundraising, you never know who's going to connect you to that $1 million investment check. Mm-hmm. So it's really just about like being hyperactive and working really hard during that like deal acquisition phase.
Yeah, and I just want to give a plug to the investment friendly agent, because you said that you looked for that when you moved to Austin, and those kind of agents that are investors themselves, like Craig and I, we know about these products because we're out there using them, right? It's like we know about all these interesting, cool things, or the lenders that know about those special programs and stuff. So definitely try to find someone with that in mind, not as much just the agent that sells people their, dream home 30 years and then moves on. So it's definitely a different type of relationship.
Yeah, agreed. And like, an investor focused agent is a rare breed because they have to work, I think, a little bit harder. Like, the house prices of investment properties are usually a little bit lower. There's a lot of math involved. There's some benefits, but like, it's just love that aspect of it, right? They at the time he had bought like a dozen properties in Austin in 2010, and he was basically independently wealthy, but he still wanted to help investors. Those are the kind of good type of person to work with, right? Because they're trying in a sense to give back, but they also are passionate about investing and how to, find great returns for themselves.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. And so why don't we head on to like kind of what happens next after your first property? So clearly, first property was a house hack. You're a product of bigger pockets, just like myself. What happens after the first property? So you're just buying number 2, 3, 4. Are you house hacking every year, or what's your strategy?
Yeah, sometimes a little fast. And I didn't go in intending to do this, but what I found is that if you're close to a single family home, they'll actually let you do it quicker. The rules on the loans the rule on the loan that I had would allow that. So second house 6 months later, and I rented out the room.
I just want to kind of elaborate a little bit more on that point of if you go from a duplex to a single family home, they'll oftentimes let you not wait the whole year. Explain that. Is that because it's a different home type, or?
Well, what banks will say is like if you're upgrading, they understand, or if you're moving, like they generally reason for what you're doing, right? And so in that case, from a duplex to a single family home, it's higher value. And so that kind of reasoning would allow it to happen. So I bought a house in South Central Austin, really near the indoor soccer arena that I've had a lot. So that was, my personal reason. Then I was able to get a second home, each individual room. So I house hacked again.
I just want to poke this at Craig because I have a feeling you didn't know this, Craig. After all these years of house hacking.
Yeah, I learned something new every time, I swear. Yeah.
I know, same here.
So that's incredible. So, I think that's just like a great takeaway. Like if you're listening to this and you're on your first house hack and it was a duplex quad and you maybe want to get into a single family for the next one, rent by the room, and you're at the 4 or 5 month mark and you're ready to go, talk to your lender or talk to a different lender if your lender says no. And I bet you might be able to, because it's huge. Like 6 months is actually a long time with a lot of appreciation to get in, a lot of rent and all that to, expedite your process.
And it enabled me to move really fast. Within 6 months of moving to Austin, I had increased my real estate portfolio by 5x cash value. So it was I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but at the end I learned a lot.
I just want to clarify your numbers a little bit. So when you moved out of the place that was your first Austin home, were you breaking even, or were you making like $500 a month because now you're renting out your room?
Yeah, it was essentially breaking even plus a little. I think I was cash flowing like $100 a month. Financing and like my cash flow got up to like 200. In a market like Denver or Austin, like cash flow, if you can get it, you're kind of lucky.
Mhm.
Just the rents have not really kept up with the price appreciation. It's still the case in 2015. In 2010, when my agent had bought, he had like a portfolio of cash flowing Austin properties, but 2015 it became increasingly difficult.
Say like you really just need to create those in these expensive markets. So renting by the room or Airbnb and all that, because we're still cash flowing in Denver for sure, but not just like buy a single family home and rent out the single family home. Like that's really hard to cash flow. Yeah,
exactly. And the next home I bought with a duplex, I had a 2-1 on each side, so it kind of had limitations on how much I could But in the next house I bought and the house after, add rooms and create like 5 bedrooms. And so at a certain number of bedrooms, you start to cash flow even in Austin. So, and that's sort of, that portfolio, it started pretty lean on the cash flow side, a lot better as I got into those bigger homes.
So I just want to let people know that real estate has these cycles, right? So sometimes the first thing that happens is that homes go up, and then you'll see condos go up after it. And then you'll see the rents rise. And so I think a lot of times people don't realize that. We're like so short-sighted with these things that we think, oh gosh, well, the prices of homes are so high right now, it's cheaper to rent, I'm just going to stay in my rental. But like that's not going to last. So you need to kind of keep up with what's happening next and watch that whole cycle. Where is it in the cycle and what's coming next? So even though you bought right away and they weren't really cash flowing, I imagine they're cash flowing now, right? So just wait a couple of years and it changes a lot.
Yeah, that definitely comes on later. If you can get in lean, it'll fatten up usually over time. And so that's definitely what's happened. Telling investors at HomeRoom as well is that this may be that right now is a very lean time for yield with real estate. There are ways to make deals. Property prices have appreciated drastically quicker than rents. What we're starting to see is a turn though, where we like over the last 60 days where I think rents are starting to outpace property value increases. So we'll start to see rents actually outpace prices, which means that if you own a property, the yield on that property and the cash flow will be going. Well, I think in any part of the cycle, one of the things that I learned in college is like you buy when stocks are up, you buy when stocks are down, you do well. And that's how I think about real estate, and that's how we talk to our clients as well.
Yeah, just keep buying. I'm curious in Austin, what does it look like if you have let's say a 5-bedroom house and you're going to rent that house as a single family or whatever versus a rent by the room type strategy? Like what is the difference in rent?
We say the average rent's going to be 50% higher with kind of rent.
Okay.
If you specifically pick the form factor that matches. And so in that case, in Austin, I'd recommend a 6-bedroom house or a house bedrooms to get to 6 bedrooms, because rents in Austin would be between $600 and $800 per room. And you're starting to look at $3,500 and $5,000 per month in rent, whereas like there's no houses that are renting for anywhere near that. So you get a drastically more rent by the room, especially when you go really dense. And Austin allows up to 6 individuals in a house, so you want to max that out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And, whatever city you're in, make sure you're not going above the maximum amount. I know Denver is 5. My head is always at 5 people per 5 rooms in a house. So no, that's awesome. So you keep alluding to this, into HomeRoom and your Y Combinator and all this stuff. Like
Sure.
What is it? Tell us more.
Yeah. So HomeRoom is we help investors make 50% more rent by enabling them to buy homes remotely and rent out each room separately. And so it's a opportunity. You come to us, you live in San Francisco, Austin, you look at the cash yield and you're like, dang, and we say, hey, we can actually get you 50% more if you kind of with us to find the home and set it up and rent it out by the room. Yeah. So we've had we've been around for a few years, but we've had a really nice 12 months for about 6x over the last year, financing from some cool VCs and about 50. So yeah, it's been a really cool, definitely, you know, starting a company is no joke, especially when there's software involved. But yeah, it's been cool. Some of my best friends bought houses with our platform, which was really satisfying. You know, like it's going well enough that you like trust your company to help. You're like, yes, I think I think we finally are getting.
Okay, so that's super cool, man. So if I want to buy a house in Austin, I come through you. You have an agent. You have basically everything. So you'd furnish the place. You do everything. Is it completely turnkey, or do we have to go in and do the furnishings and all that and set it up?
Yeah, it's completely turnkey. So, you know, yeah, you come to us, we'll connect you with an agent, and you know, the agent in each city would be someone that has like strong experience with this type of model, right? So, you know, it'd be someone like you, Craig, actually, frankly, if when we come to Denver, we'll come knocking on your but like someone that understands renting by the room, um, understands the area, understands the demographic. Our average age is like 28. So like where do 28-year-olds want to live? And then we will connect you with an interior designer and a contractor to just furnish the space, as well as if we're going to have bedrooms, we'll do that. Right. And we do that all to code. So it's compliant and safe. And then we have a platform that allows people to book rooms like booking a hotel really fast. We have our own app and software that makes that happen quickly. And people can book remotely without having to see the place. So it's pretty cool. Our occupancy is super high. It's half the price for a roommate as a studio apartment in the same neighborhood. So it's really affordable and cool community. We've had a few people that like become best friends, or we've had a few people get married from it. We've housed over 1,000 roommates today.
So do you furnish the rooms as well, just to make it more like easy for a shorter term stay, like somebody who's going to come for a month or two and may not have, mattress and all that basic stuff?
Our minimum stay today is 90 days or 3 months. We're not short term. We do that for like a couple reasons. Like one, we allow the roommates that are in the house and the new roommate to like meet each other, digitally, and make sure that's a good fit. And that can be exhausting when people are staying for like 45 days. And then it's also every time someone moves, it kind of like disrupts the house. It also separates us from short-term rentals. Like HomeRoom's not a short-term rental company, right? Our average stay is 16 months. Our goal is getting that to 2 years. But you can get furnished. We do not furnish the room by default. You can hit a button in your app and pay to have a furnished room.
What do you think
Cool.
does better,
And
furnished rooms or non-furnished rooms?
Non-furnished for sure. We find that people that are going to stay for 16 months typically have their own furniture. They want to design their own room. They want to make it home. And so when it's furnished already and you're trying to do like a longer term community, it feels more transient when it's not your stuff. I do think it's really cool though. I mean, within the app, you can actually hit a button and transfer from like Kansas City to Austin, another one of our rooms. So you can kind of like move around. Your membership agreement is a time, but not a place. So you can kind of transition. So we do have some people that are like, I want a furnished room in Kansas, then I want to move to Tampa, where you guys are now, and have that furnished. And I want to move to Austin, have it furnished. If you want to have like kind of that Zeus living type lifestyle where you're seeing a lot of places, like furnished is probably a better experience for those tenants.
Cool. I was really curious what cities you guys are in, because at first it sounded like it was just Austin, and then it sounded like some more, and then you just said Kansas City. So I'm like, oh wow, how far reaching are you guys now?
Yeah, we're in 8 metros. We just launched, over the last 6 months, we launched Tampa, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Phoenix. We are in Kansas City, Austin, San Antonio, and Dallas. And so our goal is to be in every city, right? We want to be ubiquitous with, we want to have an offering that if you think about living affordably with other people, like HomeRoom is like what you think about.
Dude, what are you waiting on for
Cool.
Denver, man?
Waiting for an invite. You're the king. You're the king
Hey,
of Denver.
you are.
How's that?
Consider it an official invite.
Yes, this is huge. We're going to Denver. We're going
to Denver. No, that's awesome, man. I think that's having something a little bit more legitimate, right, than just having the mom and pop people do this, right? Because again, like investing in these cities is becoming damn near impossible. And you hear on Bigger Pockets, you hear everything like we want to invest for cash flow. Like no matter where you go, you still want a little bit of cash flow. And so at least that opens up the opportunities to invest in cities like Austin, Dallas, maybe. But I know, maybe Dallas and Pittsburgh, and those are maybe a little bit cheaper. I imagine. I don't really know. And so, I think it's great that you guys are kind of hitting those markets.
Yeah, we're trying to be on the investor side. When I was investing, I always felt like when I was talking to people in certain markets, like they were very focused on those markets. And I was like, well, what about other markets? But it was so local focused and expertise that it was hard to compare. So one of the things we're trying to do is make it so you come in and then we say, hey, what kind of investor do you want to be? Do you want to be a cash flow investor? Do you want to be an appreciation investor? And we have some data science. We have a data science team. Team is too strong. We have one guy. His name is Mike. We have a data science guy, and so he's analyzing like data trends right on different markets. And so it's really like, which flavor ice cream do you want when you invest? We do tell people that be faster appreciation markets typically, because the leverage of that. So like Denver would be something. I love Denver, right? I love Austin, but yeah, there's a huge appetite for some cash flow. In my experience, my Austin properties have kicked all the crap out of everything else, and I've invested in Kansas City, Midland. So I'll generally say, cash flow may not be as good, but like when you sell, you're going to be really happy. So, but we generally are trying to make it open up the world for people and where they invest and how they invest in real estate.
For sure, I love that, man. I love that. I love that. So you mentioned earlier that you have placed 1,000 tenants now. I suspect it's not, no offense, but I don't suspect people are just at this point coming to livehomeroom.com and rooms. So like, I feel like there's probably a little bit of outreach you're doing. So what is some of the stuff that you're doing to fill these rooms so quickly?
Yeah. Someday, man, someday, right? Like
someday,
that would be the someday. It's like, oh, man, I got to go check out HomeRoom for room. I mean, that's the goal. Yeah, today that's like, I think 10% of our rooms that are booked are directly through the website. Climbing like very slowly, but getting there. So we have a team in Venezuela, we have a team in the Philippines. We have a kind of a split operation where it's like we have a team called lease marketers and we have a team called leasing agents. Lease marketers are kind of everywhere. Their job is to list on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, Roomster, roommates.com. We list on all the syndicated sites. The last count, I think it's 27 different places. There's coliving.com. There's a bunch of them. And so their job is just to get our link out there as much as possible. Then they come into our CRM, which is today is Tenant Turner, but we're building our own. And then we have the leasing consultants are working that. So they'll texting them, they'll get on the phones, they'll do video calls, they'll help them with virtual tours. So that's been working really, really, really well for us. We'll do like 30. The first year, it used to be my all-time. I used to do leasing myself, and my all-time high was like 17 in a month or something like that. They did like 37 last week, and I was just like, man, you guys are crushing me. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So I kind of want to go down this whole funnel with you, if you don't mind. So, you're getting as many eyes, if you're getting as many eyes as you can on each listing by just putting it in a bunch of different places, and then you're calling and qualifying the tenants. And then, so what does that criteria look like for you? Like, do you have a minimum credit score, all that kind of stuff that you look for in tenants?
Yeah. So today we do 550, and 550 is no eviction, no criminal. The criminal depends on kind of like speeding tickets. We'll let that go, right? But like clean criminal, clean eviction, 550. Typically above 600, it's like a full green light. Between 550 and 600, we have other conditions that apply. And so some of the time that means a cosigner. Some of the times that means like, one of the things we found because our tenant base is so young is like some of these folks have not established credit yet, or they just established credit. And so we generally are trying to work with people that have high potential. And we've actually never had to go through a formal eviction in the history of our company, which is pretty crazy. So the payment is like 99.7 with our current methodology, which is like we talk to them, we let them talk to the roommates, and then we say that on day 2 of the month, if you don't pay, you start to accumulate late fees, right? So we're trying to build their credit, we're trying to build their discipline in terms of payment, all part of the funnel. And so we lowered, I think, the criteria a little bit lower than I initially had. It was like 650 before, and then my team talked me into kind of going lower and trusting them to grow into it a bit more. So
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I would always say 650, 650 or higher. But again, if you've got, it seems to be working. And I can't argue with 99.7% payment.
payments.
And so, like, I guess
Yeah.
if you did have to do an eviction, what would you do? Because it's not like you can just, it's not a house, right? It's not an address. It's like a room within an address. And so how would that work? Like, would the sheriff just come knocking on the bedroom door or what?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we posted before, right? We hire somebody to go post right on their bedroom door. I think there's some like, we're not doing it to necessarily like embarrass them, right? But like there is some social like pressure when like your roommate that you share a kitchen with like sees like an eviction notice on your bedroom door. So I think there's some additional oomph to that. I'm not sure, but with 0% intentional, right? We're not like trying to embarrass, um, but yeah, so that seemed to, how would we evict? It would be we post after we follow all the procedures just as normal, and then we get a local lawyer, go to the court. But most of the time, we're like working with the tenants because we have a bit stronger relationship than an average property management company. We're in an app, we're chat based. They can Slack us. We do community events, so a lot of times people know the names of our CSM team, right? And so they'll get on the phone with them and be like, "Hey, man, like pay your rent or leave because like you don't want to go down this road. This is like the worst case scenario." So I think that's why their collection's so high, and that's why our eviction history is actually perfect. So
Okay. Well, okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, and so basically, going back to that funnel, and from listing it in a bunch of different places, you're screening them. Once they pass the screening, you kind of sign the lease, get them accepted, you get them in, and then once they're in, I guess, what does the maintenance look like? Is it on them every month, or is it kind of like you know, whatever it is?
yeah, so one thing in the funnel is we actually open a window of 18 hours for them and the roommates to have a conversation. And so some of the time roommates, no one will talk. They'll just be like, whatever. But a lot of times the new roommate coming in will want to like meet at least a couple roommates, to see if like homeroom's legit, if it's a good fit, what it's like. So that's one of the things that we did at the very beginning and we continue to do. It's a little annoying, but I still think it's valuable. In terms of check-ins, they have an app where they can message us 24/7. They can submit maintenance tickets 24/7 through the app. We do monthly maid service. Is the tenants pay for it? It's part of like the offering, and our maids like they do maid. It's called maid grades. They submit like a report card for how clean the house is every month, and then if like your maid grades drops too low, then like we'll kind of like talk to the house and be like, hey guys, how do you guys feel about cockroaches? Because like that is a legit problem if like you are just too messy, and like that's we have that there's like a normal distribution curve of what houses are like. A lot of them are in just really great shape, super clean, but on occasion on the far end it's just not quite as clean as you want, and then we start to proactively working with them.
And I think valuable, like super valuable tool for people to get into this rent by if they don't necessarily have the time, because it sounds like, again, you guys mentioned it before. How do you make money? How does Homeroom make money?
That was my
Yeah,
question,
so we
Craig.
make money in
Sorry, Z, I'm in your head. I took over.
I know, I was like waiting for you to be done with the stupid funnel. I'm like, okay.
Zeona, funnels are not stupid, they're everything.
I know, it's important. That's why I let him do it.
Oh man, when you start a business, like so many funnels, man, so many funnels. Anyway, so yeah, we make money in two ways. We make money when as an investor comes in, we'll connect you with an agent, a lender, an interior designer, and a contractor. And the agent and the lender will help you buy, and the contractor interior designer will help you set it up. We make a cut from all those introductions. Those vendors pay us for the lead generation fee. So we make some money up front for that. Um, and then on the back end, Homeroom charges a flat 15%. We don't do a lease up fee. of any kind. So just 15% of rent. And so we say, hey, we increase rent by 50% with what we create here for you. And you make 15, you pay us maybe 5% more than a property manager. Seems like, it's a pretty good deal. So we get very little.
Yeah.
We think that's actually like probably even too cheap, but yeah, it's all part of our numbers where we give investors like, hey, here's your 6% cash on cash returns with this out of pocket investment.
Okay, sounds good. And so I guess what would you say are the typical? It's like, let's just pick two markets, right? Let's pick Austin, which is probably an appreciating, Pittsburgh, which is probably less of an appreciating market. What do you see as the ballpark average return on investments there?
It's a moving target, frankly. When we started in Kansas City, our initial cohort of properties were like a 15% cash on cash in Kansas City, which is like a Pittsburgh cash flow market. Today, the transition, even our cash flow markets, is sitting at like a 6 or 7% cash yield, which is like, 2010 Bigger Pockets would not be happy. Bigger Pockets podcast would not be happy with those numbers. And then in all markets, we're trying to be cash flow positive. We don't go cash flow negative, and that includes all fees, repairs, maintenance. So for Austin, you're probably looking at 1, 2, 3%. The forecast that we also do an ROI calculation though, which shows like what we expect your appreciation will be, and we basically have a forecasted inflation number, and then we'll either go above that or below that to create our appreciation number. So we think inflation will be about 3.5% the next 5 years on average. We think Austin will appreciate about 2% higher than inflation, so 5.5. And so we'll factor that in as well. And so your cash flow will be zero, but your appreciation will mean your return on your out of pocket will be like 22, 23%. So it ends up that I did a lot of math there really quickly, or didn't really do the math, but just talked about it, to be honest. But you'll make a lot on Austin. Anytime your appreciation is above 5% and you leverage, your returns get really, really high.
Okay. I got one last question about all this stuff.
No.
Before they want to invest in Austin, but they don't know the areas, right? And so are you picking the house and being like, hey, like this one, or do they pick the house and you confirm, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we put the deals together, right? So we have our data science team of one person, Mike. He created a tool that actually pulls all properties that come on the MLS, and it'll kind of like auto underwrite them, like pretty sloppily. It's not like really that, but that's how we like screen them, and then we'll do like a more detailed underwriting of the property. And so the properties that'll like really match what we would say, hey, this is like a great homeroom, is like maximizes the occupancy, right? And then it maximizes the total returns for the property. So that's really, and then there may only be 4 or 5 of those, per month in some markets. There may be 10 or 15, but we would generally share those with investors, and then the investors would select from what we share. Investors can pick and share with us. We just find that we're really good at this, so we generally are we would recommend using our recommendation engine essentially.
Gotcha.
Wow, that's such a cool. I love it.
Yeah, seems like a very valuable service, especially if you're, again, like is basically how we did it in Denver for a very long time. And, there's different ways to do it, obviously. But if you like the rent by the room numbers and you like that strategy without the management and the hassle, because I think it's for a lot of people, then I think, home good thing. And I would say that right here, everyone's talking about a looming, technically in a recession on July 1st when we post a second quarter of losing GDP. And in recessionary times, I would say would probably thrive the most because cost of living areas, and people without jobs and stuff like that are going to look for the cheapest possible thing, and rent by the room might just be that. Yeah, I mean, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty. It's hard to say like saving 50% on rent is like when you save 50%, saving 50% on rent is always good, but in a recession with like stagnating wages, and like lack of affordable housing, like it's really, really good. So I wish there was more housing inventory, frankly. I think that's the only thing that's like that's still a challenge even for us, is just the inventory on housing continues to be pretty brutal. But we're seeing room prices accelerate faster in terms of growth than apartment rent prices. So it's
Wow.
pretty exciting time to be in rent by the room properties. It's a weird time in general, but I think rent by the room it's where I'm continuing to invest in these type of houses. I'm really excited about them.
Awesome. Well, Johnny,
Great.
congratulations on all of your success and all that. I think we need to head into the final part of the show, which is our final four. Before we do, words of wisdom for the audience.
Yeah, I think do things before you feel like you're ready. Um, I don't. I wouldn't say like doing them thoughtlessly is good, but I think almost better to move quickly into something like real estate investing. There's a lot of fear and there's a lot of hesitation. There's a lot of analysis paralysis, and I know this is like a super like I don't know, this is kind of boilerplate at this point, but by making moves, like the value is the experience and the learning you get by having stuff in your portfolio today, right? The value of having a perfect deal that you get in 2 years is not as valuable as a pretty okay deal today because you're going to learn, and learning is like the ultimate like valuable thing. And also like it dispels fear and you move faster and you make quicker decisions. That's super valuable too and like in achieving goals and anything. So that'd be my big thing with real estate investors. Like make a move, you'll usually be happy. Sometimes you'll super regret it. Um, so there's both, but being slow to act is I think death.
I love that. I think taking action, right, is always we hear it's super cliche and we say it all the time, but like you can fail. The quicker you can make that mistake, because just make a mistake, you'll probably make the same mistake. It'll just be 2 years from now, and it hurts even more because you've wasted so much time. A piece of advice. Z, anything to add before we head into the final four?
Let's go.
The final four.
All right, Johnny, question number 1. What are you reading right now?
The 15 laws of conscious leadership. I'm like,
you
the
learned
company went from
anything?
like just me to, have I learned anything? I'm supposed to elaborate on that. Sorry. I thought I was supposed to keep the answers super short and tight. Yeah, the one insight from the chapter I just read was about, it had like this quote where it's like, when you're incompletion is not a problem. Like a great song that only has one verse is still great. You just have to write other songs to make it even more beautiful. And so I think that when you're in startup land, like everything's broken all the time, and like but like what we're building is really I think beautiful and really cool and just still incomplete. So that was a cool learning for me, just like a positive spin on like my current state of our company essentially.
Okay. I like that. That was
Cool.
good elaborating.
I like that. Johnny, what
Thanks,
is the
thanks
best
for
piece of
telling me to
advice you?
elaborate. Yeah, I think the best piece of advice I ever received was to not raise venture, or not to like raise and take other people's money to start the company. Because initially when I started it, I was gonna like try to raise money from venture capitalists, and the advice is like you don't know what the hell. Basically, it was like you could do that, but the pressure and the speed, and you don't know what the hell you're doing essentially. And so I took my own money and risked it, and like learned a lot about realized that I kind of sucked, and that I had to learn a lot before I was even worthy of like taking that next step. And I did that kind of with my own cash, which felt a lot better than like burning my mom's money, essentially. Um, so I think that was honestly just really valuable advice from one of my advisors, Keith. So
All right, question number
I love that.
3.
Yeah, that's something
What
Fox got
is
started
your
too.
why?
just like self-funded retirement account stuff.
Sorry, we kind of
Sorry, I think
overlapped on
we're
each
like
other.
All right, let's do the. That was weird. Just like the company will pay for the expenses. Obviously, slower growth that way, but way less risky. And so,
Yeah, and it's funny that you're like in the basement. Like at HomeRoom, I was in the basement for like 3 years in Kansas City. Just like, although I wore pants, so that's the only difference.
here's the difference. Yeah, you can afford pants.
All right, question number 3. What is your why?
Yeah, I think my why is significance. I was working in San Francisco at like tech companies and like banks. I think it was the when I worked at the bank where I was like, this is so meaningless, right? Like I'm trying to convince some people to change like this PowerPoint meeting, and that's like this taking me a whole week. And like someday when like I'm on my deathbed, I'll be like, I can't believe I spent a week doing that. And so I just knew I wanted to do more and do something that was more impactful and meaningful. I also have always wanted to buy my mom a Tesla. So like I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that living in San Francisco, working at banks. So yeah, I think it's just significance, doing something that I'm like, that feels like it moved the world and it changed people's lives. And I know it's pretty broad, but it's what's driven me.
Is your mom driving a Tesla?
Next Series A though.
She's on her way, dude.
Next round. I think next round.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Last question is, what is the weirdest thing a guest has ever done? And this is your personal house, not like one of the ones you manage.
I was like, oh no. But 1,000 roommates. What is the weirdest thing? So my girlfriend makes like these incredible like homemade burritos, and like they're so good. It's like pretty addictive. And we had like a double date. We had like kind of a double date. We had some friends come over, and my homie decided that I guess sometimes like you just like you're hungry physically, but your soul is hungry. Like you just really want to eat, and so he went a little ham. He ate like 2.5 burritos and then had to go like spend time outside because he was worried he was going to throw up because he ate way too aggressively with the burritos. And I'm not exactly sure if he threw up or not. He didn't really tell us. I feel like the mystery of it is almost better. But like, yeah, we were all just sitting in the living room with him like outside, sweating, and we would go visit him to see if he was okay. But he ended up living. But yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you and about
livehomeroom.com. You can email me at johnny@livehomeroom.com. Pretty responsive by email. Happy to answer like house hack questions. I occasionally will get people emailing me from like cities that homeroom is not in and probably won't be in for a while. And so I try to give, thoughts on like what I'd recommend doing. Which is, if people ask me real estate advice, it's always like, you should house hack before buying a homeroom, like house hack locally. Always do that first. So yeah, happy to answer any questions personally. But yeah, if you're looking to invest remotely, livehomeroom.com /invest.
Awesome. So cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, enlightening your knowledge on getting tenants and finding the properties, and also if you wanted to invest remotely. So I think there's just a lot of value here. And yeah, man, thank you so much. We'll see.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
And that was Johnny Wolff. What do you think about Johnny, Z?
Man, I'm like getting out my checkbook. I'm ready to rock. I think the concept is super cool. I feel it is so inspiring, and it's just like one of those things where it's like, this could have been something you came up with, Craig, but of course you can't do everything. And it's just great that someone has the time and energy and drive to make this a reality. I just see it becoming way better than Craigslist, right? Such a cool place.
Yeah. Continuing to trash on me there when you said way better than Craigslist. But yeah, no, I think
no.
He's got a phenomenal model, and totally about this, but he's putting a lot of work, and I don't know if I envy that, but I think that he is, if you don't know what Y Combinator is, going back to my probably creme de la creme incubator for startups. I think Peter Thiel runs it. Like it's a big deal being in Y Combinator, and he's not that big of a deal about it, but it's a pretty big deal, and you're able to get introduced to a lot of big venture capitalists that'll probably have a lot of backing, and he's got a lot of good mentors and a lot of people on his side. And so at this point, I would be fairly comfortable maybe even investing in home, just in their investment properties. But if you could invest in their company, it would be a pretty cool thing to invest in. So yeah, he's got John. I just love his story. I love how he started off rent by the room, and then saw the light, and now he's expanding to multiple different markets, and it's becoming a really big deal. So yeah, I think that's a great thing. Z, anything else you want to add?
I think that we'll just have to see everybody next week. But in the meantime, if you could leave us a rating or review, we really appreciate it. Share us with your friends. It helps us grow. And let us know if there's somebody you'd really like to see on the show, because there are so many interesting people out there doing really cool real estate investments, and we want to know about it.
Hell yeah. So Z, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.